A new package has arrived. Let's get this open and see what's inside. Now, if you're not into the whole unboxing thing, feel free to skip ahead. There are first impressions after the unboxing. Oh yeah, Retroid. So this must be the new Retroid Pocket Flip. (16-bit) US color, not the watermelon or the race car red. Well, this included card is pretty cool. You've got the logo on one side, and on the back you've got all the specs and the button layout. And here we have the unit still hiding in this plastic bag. Let's put that aside. What else is included? There's your USB-A to USB-C charging cable, and nothing else hidden in the box. Put that back together and get to the good stuff. Oh, the anticipation is growing. And there it is. The 16-bit colorway of the Retroid Pocket Flip. Let's spin it around and just take a look from every angle at this new handheld emulation device. Those new analog triggers certainly feel nice and are a nice addition. And there she is open. Looks pretty good. I do like the finish of the color. And here are the new slider style analog sticks. Some people aren't going to like those, but we'll find out in my review. For now, let's just turn it on and see the new intro animation. No animation sound this time, which I think some of you will be quite thankful for. And there it is, the new Retroid Pocket Flip started up and ready to go. Now I'm going to take a few hours, test it out, and I will be right back with my first impressions of the Retroid Pocket Flip. And it's been a few hours, time travel. I've had a chance to test out the Flip. Let's take a look. As you could hear there is a nice texture to the surface. There is your power or on and off button, as well as your headphone jack on the bottom. On the left, you've got the space for your TF or micro SD card. It just pops right open. On the right hand edge is your volume up and down rocker. I did notice that it's a little bit more recessed, which I like. I didn't accidentally hit it the way I did sometimes on the Retroid Pocket 3 or 3 Plus. There's certainly a lot going on across the top of the unit. So first up are the L1 and R1 buttons, which are slightly wider than on the Retroid Pocket 3. Here you've got your new analog triggers. Your M1 and M2 customizable buttons, which replace the home button, the HDMI or micro HDMI input, as well as the USB-C port for charging. And finally, on the rear of the unit, you have your speakers, as well as the new active cooling system, which is a new feature of the Retroid Pocket Flip. Now, generally speaking, if you close and open the unit, it will put the screen to sleep, but since it's been off for so long, I'll need to push the power button and turn the unit on. Here you have the home screen, which should look familiar to you if you've used other recent Retroid devices. Now, I admit I have not had the proper time to set up all of my emulators. I just quickly added a few to test the unit out. I mostly want to point out any new hardware changes and test those. And here's the D-pad. It's got a nice tight feel to it, which I found worked really well, even doing moves like fireballs or hurricane kicks in Street Fighter caused me no issues whatsoever. Now, one other hardware change is these new analog sliders. They are clickable, but they're sliders. I do find they have a nice resistance to them. They don't just fly everywhere like the original PSP slider, for example. So there's a nice feedback when you're using them, but for some people, I know you're only going to be satisfied with proper sticks. Still, in my limited testing, I've found that they work well and were probably a necessary change due to the clamshell design of this device. Retroid has also added active cooling with a fan, and that's actually controllable from the menu. If you look here, you can turn the fan on or off. Pretty convenient. It also has several different modes to control the speed of the fan. For most of the games I play, I think the fan is unnecessary, but probably quite convenient if you're using your Flip to play a lot of PS2 games or similar like Wii or Switch. The hinge on the unit doesn't open completely flat, but I do find the angle works well when I'm playing. It also feels not stiff, but solid and has a nice resistance without being either too hard to open or loose. I did have some initial concerns that the screen, when open, would get in the way of these triggers, but I actually found that holding the unit this way provides support, and I had no issues using the buttons. The analog triggers feel nice, but really, we need to test those to be sure, right? Of course, I did that first by firing up Redream and using Sega Rally Championship 2. And you can see that by gently pressing the button, I'm able to maintain slower speeds on the speedometer. And there are actually many gradations of how hard I can press this to control my speed. I did have to go in and manually configure these triggers in Redream to get them to work properly in analog mode, but that's a Redream issue, not a Flip issue. They work fine as analog triggers in every other emulator I tested which supports them. That does include Super Mario Sunshine for the GameCube. First, I'll demo this analog slider. You can see I can walk slowly, faster, or bring Mario to a run. And it does work well despite being a slider instead of a proper stick. More importantly, the analog R trigger works great for using the water pack. If you press it slightly, you can run around and spray water, but if you press it fully, you will now lock into place and can control the angle of the spray. And that's something that you couldn't do on the Retroid Pocket 3 or 3 Plus, so it's a very handy addition to the Flip. You also have these new M1 and M2 buttons, which are customizable, and I found are easy to reach from the triggers. Handy for things like menus or replacing the home button. I also noticed that the texture of this gray Flip is slightly different than on the 3 Plus. Whereas the 3 and 3 Plus felt very smooth, the gray Flip feels more similar to the translucent 3 Plus units with a better texture. Comparing it to a 3 Plus, it's obviously thicker. However, the height is almost identical. You can't even see it when it's behind the 3 Plus. As I mentioned, the buttons are better recessed on the sides, so I'm less inclined to hit them when I squeeze the unit. And it just has a very pocketable feel. The clamshell makes me confident that I can just toss it into my pocket or in my backpack, and it is a better size for that. Now, of course, I didn't talk much about performance or do any performance testing yet. I do suspect it will perform the same as the Retroid Pocket 3 Plus, which you can check out a video of right here, and I will get more into that in my review, which will be coming in a few days. That will include complete performance testing as well as battery life comparisons between the Flip and the 3 Plus. Until then, enjoy just a bit of Outrun Coast to Coast, and if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do go ahead and do that so you'll be the first to know when I post my Retroid Pocket Flip review. And until then, I want to say thanks for watching, and just keep gaming.